Hey everybody, what's going on? This is Draven Renning from the US Sargeras server, and today I want to bring my 6.2 first impressions. Apologies on this being a bit later than my post, but I figure I can cover a lot more information this way, and my recording program didn't want to work the first time around, so here goes. Ahead of time I want to apologize. Normally I have my videos fairly scripted so I don't sound like a babbling idiot, but this time around I didn't bother so much, so forgive any ramblings or whatnot. Let's jump into it. Ahead of time I want to say that the stuff I'm running in the background is either my DPS test that I was doing as Affliction and Destruction, sorry, no demo videos, or the few LFR attempts I got in on Gore Fiend. So there's nothing particularly special about it, it's just give you something visual to look at if you're bored and you don't want to do whatever else it is that you have going on in life. So feel free to just go back to another window and listen in as you please. So let's take a look at this. And I want to say that the stuff I'm running in the background is either my DPS test that I was doing as Affliction and Destruction, sorry, no demo videos, or the few LFR attempts I got in on Gore Fiend. So there's nothing particularly special about it, it's just give you something visual to look at if you're bored and you don't want to do whatever else it is that you have going on in life. So feel free to just go back to another window and listen in as you please. So let's take a look at this. Going into the patch, as expected, as far as using your gear on live, you're going to see that Affliction is going to be the strongest, Destruction is going to be the second best, and Demo is going to round out the bottom by quite a far margin. So to give you an idea, these are the numbers that I had on target dummies on the live server with my present gear, which is like a 700 item level. So Affliction with Soulburn Haunt and Grimoire Supremacy was like 38.4k. It was consistently in the high 30s. Affliction with Service and Supremacy, which is what most people expect to be a pretty solid choice this patch, going in without the tier 18 bonuses, 35k. Still respectable. Both of those are a big increase from what they are on live servers. Demo, moving in with Service and Servitude, is only a 30.2k. It's remarkably low. It's very sad, actually, what happened to Demonology single target. 25% nerf, but that's life. It is not going to be a progression spec, that's for sure. Destruction with Service and Servitude was 36k, actually. It was pretty competitive with Charred Remains and Grimoire Sacrifice, which was 36.5k. So either Destruction setup, regardless of what you prefer to play, the faster playstyle of Charred Remains versus the slower playstyle and more like free damage with your pet using Service and Servitude, either way they're both pretty competitive in live gear without the tier 18 bonuses. For comparison's sake, just for those who are curious, as far as my Demonology DPS on live servers, I do like a little over 35k with Servitude and Service. So to see that go down to 30k is really kind of shocking, and it's just representative of the huge nerf that we took. So again, don't expect Demo to be very good until later on, and I'll touch on that a little later. So moving into just some generalization, again I apologize if this isn't in any particular order, so I might jump around between various specs. But looking at Destruction for tier 18, the 2-piece with Service and Servitude is going to result in mana starvation. If you haven't seen it yet, basically what it's going to do is the 2-piece is going to give you a faster casting Chaos Bolt, a much faster casting Chaos Bolt. It becomes, I'll show it to you guys first. So it reduces it by 1 second. So for me, with my gear set right now, it's 1.3 second cast time, no haste buffs of any kind. That's remarkably fast. Once you're in a raid setting, particularly with like Bloodlust or maybe a haste trinket or something like that, that's going to be under the global cooldown, which is pretty amazing. The 4-piece gives you a 9% chance to not consume an ember, which of course is just RNG. There's not a whole lot you can do about that. When it procs, it's great. Otherwise, it's there. Now, moving on to the mana starvation issue. The reason being is casting Chaos Bolt on live servers, the way it's set up right now with that longer cast time, that time that you spend casting Chaos Bolt is that time that you're going to be passively regenerating your mana. That's just how Destruction is designed to play. I feel like they might have made a pretty big oversight this time around, because with the speed with which you're casting Chaos Bolt, you don't have time to regenerate your mana. So you're casting a huge quantity of Incinerates, Conflagrates, and Immolate, all of which are burning your mana, and you don't get to regenerate that because you have a remarkably fast Chaos Bolt. So you're going to spend, essentially to regenerate your mana, you have to stand there and poke the boss. Like, there's not much you can do. It's really rather sad. So be aware that once you get the tier 18 set, Service and Servitude is no longer going to be desirable whatsoever. Prior to that, it's perfectly competitive. So moving into the look at the 4-piece in tier, or technically the 2-piece in the tier 18 demo, it is really just one more thing to keep track of. Now on this particular character, I don't have a demo spec, so I can't show it to you, but the 2-piece is going to give you a stacking buff, where every time you use Soulfire, it's going to increase the damage of your demon by 5%. Stacks up to 5 times, so a total of 25% extra demon damage. That in itself is pretty impressive. But maintaining that demon buff is going to be a core aspect of playing Demonology well. You must do it. And with it, there are a few things you want to take a look at, like take note of. Something is that just given the RNG of generating Molten Core procs and getting hasted will increase cast time Soulfires, this becomes a pain in the butt. Add on to that this buff only has a 15-second duration, and it doesn't count cast time. It doesn't matter when you cast it. What matters is when the ability lands. Therefore, you have to start factoring in travel time. It becomes remarkably frustrating to try and keep track of this. It's not as bad as something that we're going to talk about later with Destruction, but it's not fun, and it's something you're going to have to do. Now, this presents a bit of a problem. If you're playing Service and Servitude, where you need to save your Molten Core procs so you can get them out during a meta and a Dark Soul, Demonic Fury dump, you have to consistently use one every 10 to 12-ish seconds, depending on how far you are from your target, just to maintain your Demonology buff. Now you're kind of in, without good luck, you're up crap creep without a paddle. There's not a lot you can do. You have to consistently cast this ability, but you're supposed to also save this ability. So that's something to keep in note of, and I will talk about what I found to get around that and actually boost Demonology's DPS, but a little bit more on that later. Now, something worth noting, yes, you can, jump into meta, throw out a Chaos Wave just to generate a Molten Core charge, but in reality, especially once you get the class trinket, you're going to want to save those charges, and you might be forced to hard cast Soulfire to maintain this buff. If that's the case, given like the 3-second cast time on it, plus however much seconds in travel time, you're going to have to start casting this ability when the buff has like 6 or 7 seconds. That means if you have terrible luck, it's only a 15-second buff. You're going to spend 50% of its duration trying to refresh it. It's a real kick in the balls, but it's something you're going to have to keep in mind and you're going to have to play well with. Now, I just mentioned that you can actually get around that. And the get around is that Demon Bolt plays really well with this setup. With the 2-piece bonus, having you basically cast Soulfire so frequently, it's rather amazing for Demon Bolt, which you have to cast anyways just to build your Demonic Fury so that you can dump it on Demon Bolt. So, as long as you simply make sure you sit on one Molten Core like consistently, you'll be able to maintain 100% buff or uptime on the buff, no problem. It was actually really easy when playing Demon Bolt. Very nice. It outperformed Service and Servitude by about 2k consistently. It was pretty awesome. Now, moving on to Demo's AoE nerf. Yes, it was stiff, but it's not game breaking. Like, you're going to be able to, you will live. Between Cataclysm and 2 Chaos Waves, since we won't have 3 anymore, since we're going to eventually give up the tier 17 bonus, and we won't have the opportunity to generate extra charges off of Corruption, because again, giving up the tier 17 bonus, our damage will be there. It's just going to be basically a shadow of what it used to be. No more 4 or 5 Chaos Waves in a row, that was just amazing. So we'll give that up, but we'll be present. On fights where there's really low health mobs that need to be burst down quickly, it will have its niche. But other than that, expect to basically be running Demon Bolt is what I predict. With the tier 18 2-piece for Destro, which I can show you guys right here again, the increased cast time on Chaos Bolt, it plays really well with Charged Remains. Really well. Really fast Ember generation, really fast Ember dump, creates a very dynamic and fast-paced playstyle, which I personally really like. I expect this to be the go-to setup for Destruction once you get that 2-piece bonus. Now talking about Backdraft, on live right now, if you cast Chaos Bolt with 3 stacks of Backdraft, it's going to give you a hastened or a quickened Chaos Bolt But with the tier 18 two-piece bonus, it doesn't really matter anymore. There's no reason whatsoever to cast Chaos Bolt with these 3 stacks of Backdraft. Now presently on live, during your opener, you might want to do that just to get an extra Chaos Bolt out during your Dark Soul or your burn phase. But right now, because it's a percentage-based kind of thing, what's going to happen is your Chaos Bolt is going to go for me, 1.3 seconds. If I hit this target dummy, and I get, my stacks of, where is it at, right there, Backdraft, it goes down to 0.907. That's only 0.4 seconds of a difference, which is really next to nothing, a little under half a second, but it's already so fast that you're barely going to notice it. I'd much rather have 3 hastened Incinerates. So keep that in mind. You can basically give up casting backdrafted Chaos Bolts. Now the class trinket for destruction, and I'll throw it on here real fast, is really kind of underwhelming. Really, it's a disappointment to me, to be honest, because what it does is it gives you a stacking debuff on the target every time you cast Incinerate that increases the critical strike chance, not damage, of your abilities. Now, if you're using Charred Remains, the bulk of your damage in either AoE or single target is going to come from Chaos Bolt. But this doesn't benefit, the trinket doesn't benefit Chaos Bolt because Chaos Bolt's already 100% crit chance. This does nothing for it. All this does is boost the crit chance on your Incinerate, your Conflagrate, and your Immolate Rain of Fire if you use it. That's it. And it's only 15%. Now, in addition to that, you have to maintain this buff. This buff lasts 10 seconds and has to factor in travel time. It is remarkably frustrating to try and maintain this on more than one target. Incredibly frustrating. It's very weak too. I mean, like I mentioned, the bulk of your damage is going to be coming from Chaos Bolt, which doesn't benefit whatsoever at all from this trinket. So I don't really see, if you are hell-bent on playing Destruction, don't expect this trinket to do much for you. If you're playing Service and Servitude, which again you probably shouldn't because the tier 18 two-piece does not play well with it, only in that situation you might get some decent benefit since more of your damage is going to be coming from your fillers or your Ember builders. But right now this is essentially garbage for Destruction, in my opinion. Its only minor saving grace is that it works for AoE. I can throw on Fire and Brimstone and spread this debuff around to everybody I hit with Incinerate. But again, if you think about it, even in AoE situations, the bulk of your damage is going to come from Chaos Bolt, not from this ability. So, in the long run, I think this is a wash. I'm not impressed with this trinket. I will likely, when playing Destruction, use something else over it. Now, moving on to the class trinket with Demonology. Again, I can't show it to you here, but basically when you cast Hand of Gul'dan, you have a 60% chance to summon 3 imps. The class trinket for Demonology gave me a significantly higher number of imps and Molten Core procs, obviously. Like at one point I had like 12 imps out at a time. It was kind of crazy for a single target. But it didn't really affect my DPS all that much. I was kind of surprised. I mean, with more imps comes obviously more imp damage, more Demonic Fury, more Molten Core procs. Everything lines up. It would make a lot of sense that this is a big DPS boost. So I'm not too sure how I feel about that, the fact that it didn't really do much for me. I'm going to presume that maybe I just had some bad RNG with trinket procs and whatnot. Call it a wash. I expect this to be the go-to trinket for Demonology. Theoretically, it makes a lot of sense. Unless I'm missing something, it should boost your DPS by a good deal. It just didn't for me, not entirely sure why. However, worth noting, the increased Molten Core procs and the imps had a significantly more Demonic Fury, which made really easy to maintain that 2-piece tier 18 bonus of consistently casting more Soulfires, even when I wasn't playing Demon Bowl. So even when I needed to save my Soulfires for burn phases, it wasn't such a big deal because I had a lot more of them to spend. So that was kind of nice. The Demo 2-piece tier 18 bonus, it looks like it's really going to heavily favor Servitude and Supremacy. With the increased 25% damage, demon damage, it makes sense you take the stronger damage, or the stronger demon from Servitude, make it even stronger with Grimoire of Supremacy. But for me, however, in the end, even with what could be called possibly the best RNG available, like consistent flow of Demonic Fury, Molten Core procs, Trinket procs, everything at the right time, Service Supremacy barely outperforms Service and Service, or Service and Servitude. Which Service and Servitude had mediocre RNG, like it wasn't that special. So I don't really expect much from Supremacy this patch, unfortunately, despite the way that it sounds, or the way that it looks on paper. We'll obviously have to run some more sims and see this play out on like the large scale with other fights. But for me, I wasn't impressed with it as far as my target dummy DPS went. Looking at how the class trinket plays out with Affliction. So I'm going to swap over to Affliction, let you guys take a look at that. Affliction really is our... Previously was the Dark Horse, and this time it is like the reigning champion. This is the go-to spec to play this expansion, hands down. So take a look at the class trinket. Basically what it's going to do is going to reduce the duration in your period of agony and unstable affliction by 27%, at least for the 705 version. It's going to increase the frequency with which your dots tick, and as a result lower the duration, which means you have to more consistently apply them. This is going to be heavily annoying for multi-target fights like council style 2-3 boss fights. It's going to be a lot of dot maintenance, but after some further testing, this trinket's not that bad. I think it's probably going to be the best in slot for Affliction. It wasn't overwhelmingly good. Like the notes here, I have that I ended up doing slightly more DPS when using Soulburn Haunt and slightly less DPS when using Service and Supremacy with this trinket. And it would make some sense. When you're using Soulburn Haunt, it's always going to boost the damage output, or the... basically, it's going to boost the performance of your dots. So introducing a trinket like this one, where it reduces the duration and the period of agony, you know, affliction or unstable affliction and corruption, it makes a lot of sense that when you buff your dots, this trinket becomes more and more valuable. Now, playing Service and Servitude, more of your damage is coming from your pet, which diminishes the value of this particular trinket. Such as like an observation that I made. I will be using this trinket when if I get it, for sure. I don't know how this is going to play out on multiple target like AoE fights, like big AoE fights. I expect this to be potentially very strong in combination with like a Soulburn, Seed of Corruption, and a Cataclysm. Because if I can land all those dots on all those, like, you know, 10 plus mobs at a time, they're going to tick so rapidly, especially if I hit like Dark Soul, they're going to tick so rapidly that that's going to be a lot of damage on a lot of mobs. I feel like that's going to potentially be really competitive with Destruction's AoE. I have no idea how that's going to work out. I haven't had a chance to test it. It's just an expectation, and we'll see more when this goes live. But all in all, it's a nice trinket. It's definitely worth looking at. Now, the star of this expansion, as far as Affliction goes, is the tier 18 2 and 4 piece bonus. Those are a very impressive set of bonuses. Basically, every time you cast Dark Soul Misery, or while Dark Soul Misery is active, your Drain Soul damage is going to increase the duration on Haunt. That's the 4th set. So basically, the entire duration of your Dark Soul is going to come with an entire duration Haunt. Now, to make it even better, your 2 set, every time your Drain Soul deals damage, you have a 20% check-in to extend the duration of Dark Soul Misery. So, provided you can get a lot of uptime on Drain Soul, you could potentially have a very long-lasting Haunt and Dark Soul Misery. And this actually works out really well. That's kind of the thing that makes this spec the most amazing right now. Basically, if I take a quick look at some of the information I have here, let me make sure this is one of them. So looking here, this was a pull I did earlier, and I was testing out Glyph of Dark Soul, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But basically, you're getting upwards of 47-50% of Dark Soul uptimes. Very impressive uptimes coming up from live, from where we're at right now. And as far as debuffs go, and taking a look at Haunt, 92% uptime on Haunt, that is unheard of. That is remarkably fantastic. Very impressive Haunt uptimes. Very nice to see, for sure. So, moving back over to the bonus and talking about it a little bit more, basically on your opener, what you can expect is, regardless of what setup you're playing, Soulburn Haunt or Service and Servitude, you're going to have a lot of Nightfall procs going on. You're going to have a lot of soul shards being generated, and it might be to your advantage to use Soulburn Soul Swap just to apply your dots, just so you can get them out quicker and you can have a longer Drain Soul duration. You can just cast Drain Soul for a longer period of time, which is going to extend the duration of Haunt, and it's going to potentially extend the duration of Dark Soul. So keep that in mind. Soulburn and Soul Swap is going to be pretty useful regardless of what setup you're playing, primarily in the opener. After that, you'll probably be doing a lot of it manually. Moving on from that, as I mentioned, you get some very high Dark Soul, very high Dark Soul and Haunt uptimes. But I want to talk a little bit about Glyph of Dark Soul. I had a recent discussion with someone on the forums about this, and I just wanted to share that in the video now that I'm remaking it. So Glyph of Dark Soul is actually surprisingly really strong, depending on whether or not you use the class Trinket. So if you don't already know, Glyph of Dark Soul is going to reduce the duration of Dark Soul by half and extend its duration. So it goes from 20 seconds to 10 seconds, from 2-second cooldown to 1 minute, or 2-minute cooldown to 1 minute cooldown. In combination with Archimonde's Darkness, you can potentially get a lot of Dark Souls out, and with good RNG, you can get some impressively long uptimes using your 2 and your 4 set bonus, primarily the 2 set bonus. First, talking about how it plays out with the class trinket. Basically, the class trinket is going to require you, because the lower duration, the faster period, is going to require you to cast your dots more frequently. Now, in the opener, when you have Dark Soul rolling, you want to get as high an uptime on Drained Soul as possible for the chance to continually extend Dark Soul Misery. The problem with the class trinket is you're going to consistently have to refresh dots more, and the more time you're refreshing dots, be it the cast time from Unstable Affliction or the instance that you get with Agony and Corruption, is less time you're draining soul. Just to refresh all 3 dots, it's close to 5 seconds, give or take. 4 to 5 seconds overall. And your drained soul only lasts for a collective 10 seconds, you know, assuming you don't get great RNG and get a ton of procs right off the bat to extend it. So that trinket does not play nice at all with Glyph of Dark Soul. It's a DPS loss, hands down, for sure. Like, when that goes live, that's exactly what I expect. And it's a shame, because that trinket is really quite strong. But, assuming you don't have the trinket, Glyph of Dark Soul is actually a DPS increase. It was with Glyph of Dark Soul that I was able to see some remarkably high Dark Soul uptimes, over 55%, 55 to 60% uptime on that buff. Fantastic uptimes. Now, yes, it requires some luck, and yes, you have to be really smart with when you cast it in relation to your durations, like how much time they have left. But you can get some really, really impressive uptimes. And with that, of course, is going to come Haunt uptimes. Like that one I showed you a little bit ago was 47% Dark Soul and over 90% of Haunt. That was with the Glyph of Dark Soul. It's very impressive. With good luck, and when things go your way, I have no idea how this is even going to be affected when you look at something like being Bloodlust or Haste or Heroism. That could easily rise much higher with the frequency with which your Drained Soul is dealing damage. So we'll see. It's going to be pretty impressive. Don't pass that glyph over. If you don't have the class trinket, but you do have the tier bonuses, don't pass that trinket over. It's going to be very strong. Or sorry, don't pass that glyph over. It'll be very strong. I expect good things from that class trinket, or that glyph, in conjunction with, or without, I should say. I expect strong things for the glyph without the class trinket. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and jump over and take a look at some of the screenshots I took. Yes, these are tentative numbers. Yes, this is just target dummies. But it's kind of nice to get a look at what other people are doing, and maybe help give you an idea of how that might shape the way you're playing when this goes live. So let's go take a look at that. So here we have my beta test realm screenshot section. I've broken this up into 3 categories: live gear, tier 18 4 pieces with live trinkets, and tier 18 4 pieces with the class trinket. So jumping straight into live gear, basically coming in, my 700 item level, no changes from my current gear. This is what I'm doing. Again, on live, my best spec is pulling about 35k on these target dummies under similar conditions. So Affliction with Soulburn, Haunt, and Supremacy is rocking out at 38.4k. Now this is variable given the RNG and the luck that I have, but consistently I was in the high 30ks. Hands down, this is what I'm playing when this goes live. No doubt about it. Now, not to be undone is Servitude and Supremacy, which was a decent 35k. It's less maintenance, it's less things to look for because you don't have to maintain Soulburn, Haunt. But it's decent damage, and I would imagine under the right situations, this could be a very potential front runner. Moving back, take a look at the demonology changes. Demonology, ugh, sweet baby Jesus. So Demo with Service and Servitude only managed to drop out 30k. Really weak, incredibly weak, 5k down. I will not be touching this anytime soon. And even when I have my tier 18 4 piece that makes Demon Bolt viable, I doubt I will use Demonology at all this expansion. Or this patch, my apologies. And then looking at Destruction, good old Destruction. So coming in with Service and Servitude, a solid 36k. Like, that's respectable damage. That's a good deal up from what I'm doing probably on live, I would imagine. I'd have to go test it, but probably like 2-3k up. I'll take free damage. And then Charred Remains is 36.5k. And again, keep in mind there's no telling how my my RNG, my luck got involved with this. This is just straight up me taking screenshots of me testing on PTR. Take it with a grain of salt, people. Moving back, let's take a look at the live trinkets with tier 18. So this is something I was actually really quite curious of, and I tested quite a bit, because I'm going to probably get my tier 18 before I get my class trinket, just depending on how luck goes. But let's take a look at this. So I'll start with the first round of attempts. Let's take a look at Affliction with Soulburn Haunt, Supremacy, and Glyph of Dark Soul. 39k. Just an outright 39k. Pretty impressive showing, if you ask me. Taking a look at Soulburn Haunt with Supremacy and not having the Glyph is 39.3k. Now looking at that, you might be thinking, oh, I thought you said Glyph of Drained Soul is going to be the way to go. We'll come back to this. So I'll point that out. So this is Affliction with Servitude and Supremacy, Glyph of Drained Dark Soul, 35.6k, pretty consistently in the mid 30k, 35, 36k. It wasn't super impressive with Glyph of Drained Dark Soul. Now I don't know what happened on this particular pull, but this was Servitude and Supremacy without Glyph of Dark Soul, and 41.8k. Again, not really sure how that happened, what happened. I may have had some amazing RNG. I tested this multiple times. I think I just ended up taking the best screenshot from each round, or from each setup. So this is what I ended up having for that. Now, that was all the way up. That was these four right here. Let's take a look at the round 2s that I did. So, starting off, let's take a look at Soulburn Haunt with Supremacy. This is not using Glyph of Drained Dark Soul. It went from being like high 38Ks to 36Ks today. I don't know why. Maybe they changed the numbers. Who knows? But, and it was consistently, you know, 36, 35K. Multiple tests. Taking a look at Soulburn Haunt, Supremacy, and Glyph of Drained Soul, or Dark Soul. Well, hello there. That's 41.8K, which is about give or take 3K up from where I tested it yesterday. I was personally pretty impressed with this. I was very surprised. Maybe I got lucky, maybe I was just playing it better, I don't know. But this is something to look out for. I'm expecting Soulburn Haunt with Supremacy and Glyph of Dark Soul to be the way to go. And I expect that to be followed up by Service and Servitude without Glyph of Dark Soul, just based off my simple little test. More time will tell, we'll see. Getting out of the live trinkets, moving on to Demonology. So this is again with a 4-piece bonus. My live trinkets. Demon Bolt. I love you, Demon Bolt. So again, on live, with my gear, I was doing 30k DPS. Simply swapping out for the 4-piece, boom, immediately up to just under 36k with Demon Bolt. Again, like the nerfed Demon Bolt. This guy is back? What? We'll see. It's kind of unfortunate that the Demon buff shares the same icon as Demon Bolt's timer, but small observation there. This is Demon Bolt with Synergy. The previous one was Demon Bolt with Supremacy. With Synergy, the previous reigning champion for Demon Bolt choices, just shy of 32k. So between the two of them, hands down, no doubt, I'll be picking Demon Bolt with Supremacy if I ever play Demon Bolt. So getting out of Demon Bolt, taking a look at Servitude and Supremacy, 28.9k. That is less damage than I did in my live gear. That's just kind of sad. I'm going to presume that maybe I just made mistakes, didn't have great uptimes on my buffs or something, but that was not impressive. I consistently had sub 30k tries, and it was not impressive at all. And this is Service and Servitude. So again, Service and Supremacy, which is what everybody thought was going to be the top dog. This is Service and Servitude, 33k, a good deal. You know, that's like 4k up from the previous one, what people thought was going to be best to run. And these aren't just one-time tests. I did multiple tests for these, and I just selected the best screenshot from each one. So Service and Servitude looks to be like the underdog. Sorry, my apologies. Service and Supremacy looks to be the underdog. Service and Servitude looks to be second best, and I expect Demon Bolt to be top overall. Time will tell. We will see. So lastly, taking a look at destruction, tier 18. Very impressive numbers for destruction. 39.1k. A lot of people were saying destruction is probably going to be pretty weak on a single target, might be decent for AoE, but I disagree. I mean, this is right up there with affliction, more or less, you know, barring the 41k pulls that I had. I don't know why that happened, but this is impressive DPS. I haven't taken the time to test this new spec with Glyph of Dark Soul. I mean, maybe you can still pump out a couple more extra Chaos Bolts since they're faster cast time. I'm not sure, maybe. Something worth looking into, maybe for someone else out there. This was Service and Servitude. Again, previously this is Try Remains and Sacrifice. I mentioned this is going to be hard on mana. I even had to make a note of it, because this is really tough. I went a few times. I just do not, with the 2-piece bonus and the faster cast time on Chaos Bolt, you don't get the time necessary to regenerate your mana that you should have while casting Chaos Bolt. They will definitely need to fix this. Maybe casting Chaos Bolt will instantly restore some mana, and that can be addressed and make this spec more viable, but right now this is not the way to go whatsoever. So those were the two tests I ran for that one. That's everything for the live trinket and tier 18. Let's look at how the class trinket plays in with tier 18. So starting with affliction, again with affliction, it's going to increase the frequency with which your dots tick, but reduce the duration, so you have to refresh them more frequently. 41k, not a bad showing at all. That's pretty decent. This is Sober and Haunt and Supremacy. That's right around where my other ones were, 41, 42k. So it's not like a huge DPS loss. It could be a DPS boost. More time will tell. It wasn't super impressive for me though. Nothing amazing. And this is Service and Supremacy with the same setup. Class Trinket tier 18 4-piece. 39.8k, still very competitive DPS. You know, it's like a 1.5k give or take underneath. Not even that, less than 1.5, 1.3k DPS less than Soulburn Haunt, and it's less maintenance. You don't have to focus so much on trying to maintain your Soulburn Haunt, because if you were to forget your Soulburn Haunt for any decent amount of time, this is gonna screw you over, and it's gonna hurt, just like it does on live right now. So maybe for those of you who are less inclined towards Affliction, this might be the setup you're wanting to run. Servitude and Supremacy. Keep an eye out for it. Moving look into Demonology. So this is Demon Bolt with Glyph of Supremacy, which for me gave the highest Demon Bolt damage numbers. And this is only 33.5k, which is really strange, because I mean, look at all these imps out here, you know. Every time I cast Hand of Gul'dan, I have a 60% chance to summon more imps. Yes, it's RNG based, but that RNG should be in your favor more often than not. I'm not entirely sure why my DPS dropped. I'll have to see this play out a little bit longer if I ever even decide to play Demonology in this tier. But there it is for you guys to check out. This is Service and Servitude, 30k. Ugh. Not impressive. Not impressive at all. Again, DPS dropped from not using it. Basically, it was 33k not using it, 30k with it. Maybe giving up the, I don't know. I think I gave up the crit trinket. Giving up the crit trinket might have hurt more than I thought. Not sure. This is Servitude and Supremacy. Servitude and Supremacy, which is what everybody thought was going to be top dog. Like, this is going to be number one, people thought, because of the nature of the 2-piece bonus, give you 25% demon damage. This is with ridiculously good RNG. Like, good enough, I made a note of it, because I was like, holy crap, why am I getting all these buffs and all this Demonic Fury and all these, you know, imp spawns at the same time? 31.7k, that's really kind of underwhelming and really just kind of unimpressive altogether. Demonology, again, it's had its day. Time to put it on the shelf. Lastly, to round out this video, is Destruction. I only tested Charred Remains and Sacrifice since it is the top dog. I can't express to you how much I dislike the trinket bonus, the way it's set up. 15% or 15% increased critical strike chance on your abilities is garbage for Destruction. It doesn't affect your Chaos Bolt, which, as we can clearly see, makes up about 75% of my damage. All these other abilities do not matter if I crit. Yes, I'll get more embers, hooray, but it's so negligible in the long run. This needs a serious reworking if this trinket's going to be any good for Destruction, at least as far as single target goes. Nonetheless, still pulling out 38.5k, a little bit less than what I was using with my live trinkets, like 39k. Still solid damage, but again, far from being impressive. Well, everybody, I hope you guys appreciated the time and the effort I threw into this. Hopefully this helps you guys out. If so, feel free to drop a like, comment, subscribe, whatever it may be. I appreciate your time. I'll see you guys in the next video.